Every combat sport has fighters that are notorious for quote unquote running, and sometimes you just can't defend them. A great example of that is Ryan Hall rapidly diving for Imanari rolls against Ilia Topuria, then getting finished in the most comical way possible. While I understand that Ilia is the best boxer in the UFC, this isn't grounds for timidity, and if the fight had went on any longer, I'm pretty sure Ryan would have lost via DQ. Yusuf Salah is a great example of a fighter that isn't timid but does find himself in situations where he needs to be. He has very elusive footwork, and I actually think it's some of the best in the division. He uses his lateral movement very well, and that's what helped him survive against Ilia Topuria and beat Calvin Kattar. His fight against Calvin Kattar is interesting because he undeniably won the first 2 rounds and decided to stay on the back foot in the third. He was literally running away from Calvin Kattar, who had a sense of urgency because both him and his corner knew that he was down 2 rounds and needed to get a finish to win the fight. I don't entirely blame him because he was up 2 rounds and Calvin was trying to take his head off. His approach in that fight was similar to that of Volk when he fought Diego Lopez. It was 2-2 going into the fifth, and any slight mistake would have gave the round to Diego, knowing that he has dynamite in his hands, so it only makes sense that he doesn't take any huge risks. MVP is a fighter that receives mixed emotions from the MMA community. You have people like me that thinks he's one of the best strikers the sport has ever seen, and the other half that thinks he stalls, and his point karate background plays a huge role in that. But more than anything, I think it's his right hand and his blitzes. His blitzes allow him to land this from halfway across the octagon, and this makes his opponents worry about entering his void. I think it's more of a skill issue on his opponent's end than it is a timidity issue on his. Shakur Stevenson has to be one of my favorite boxers right now, and I'm no expert, but looking at his resume, the only notable names I see are Oscar Valdez and Edwin Dos Santos. Now, his fight against Edwin Dos Santos was very interesting, and shortly after it happened, a few fans thought that it was a robbery, but I think they were expressing their frustration more than anything else, because that is one of the most boring boxing matches I've ever watched in my entire life. And I think it's because Shakur will always take the path of least resistance, and going up against someone like De Los Santos, who's more powerful, faster, and more explosive, it only makes sense that Shakur is going to fight a boring fight. Where Shakur had the edge is ring IQ, distance management, and reaction time. And he doesn't have the dynamic footwork and pivoting of Lomachenko or head movement of Dmitry Pirog. His primary defense is literally stepping back, and he does that better than anyone else I know. And on top of that, anytime he felt overwhelmed, he would clinch with De Los Santos and land a strike before the referee breaks them, and that was scoring on the cards. 90% of the time, Shakur was throwing a jab, and I think it's because he respected the power of De Los Santos. Another thing I found crazy was how at the end of the fight, they shared a stat showing that De Los Santos only landed 13% of his strikes. Most of them were either missing or landing on Shakur's guard, and that's impressive even for a track star like Shakur. In conclusion, was his performance against De Los Santos timidity or elusivity? I think a little bit of both. Anyway, if you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.